Cool. So first things first, good morning, welcome. My name is Natasha, right here, I think. Yeah. I work for the Pasadena Public Library, and I work here over at Hill Avenue branch, where we have our own little garden and garden collection, seed library as well, if you're not aware of it. And so this is kind of tying into our gardening program, Pasadena Grows, except this is a little bit out there, a little bit more for the spooky month. And we're focusing on witchy herbs today. So as I said, I work here for the library. So first and foremost, I'm a library person, but I also am interested in things outside of the library, and kind of witchy herbal things is one of my hobbies. I will say, disclaimer, I'm not an expert. So I am a learner just like you guys. So if there are things that you want to know really in depth, I would actually suggest next weekend, Saturday, the 5th of November, we are going to be having an in-person program with a herbalist, an experienced herbalist, and she will be teaching a little bit more into the history, uses of herbs, collecting practices, all that kind of stuff. And I believe she's going to have hands-on demonstrations in person as well. That'll be at the Lamanda Park branch. Her name is Irina Korostathis. So please, if this piques your interest, attend. Ask her all the hard questions. Now, I think honestly that this is like a nice learning process that, even people who are experts forever, I think always are referring to their notes, their books, and it's a great idea to just always keep researching, learning things, trying things. So this really today is just to kind of get your toe dipped in the water, see if anything interests you, and hopefully you try some stuff out. So what we'll be covering today. What's a witch? Where does it come from? Watch out. And what can I make? So first things first, what is witchcraft? This can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Obviously, a lot of people, when they think of witchcraft, they think of the spooky evilness. They think of cursing ex-boyfriends and placing hexes on people. Honestly, it doesn't have to be that deep. It doesn't have to be nefarious. I have heard it said, and I very much like the thought that here, it's the practice of working with natural energies with intention to accomplish a task or a goal. Simple as that. So, for instance, it's in the modern world, it can be as simple as just being mindful of your own needs, of your own goals. Maybe instead of just having a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, you stop and you think, how is my body feeling? And is there anything I can do to help that? Maybe I have some stomach issues. I'm going to try to focus my tea to help my stomach. Maybe throw in a little extra magical luck on top of it. Why not? Why does that hurt? Maybe how you are feeling, maybe you're nervous about an upcoming interview. It's just placing more thought and intention into who you are, how you're feeling, what you're doing about it. So now the history of witchcraft, maybe it was a little bit different. So the brief history of green witches. So green witches, I would say, are people that work with herbs, nature, that sort of thing. So it kind of goes back to people who did folk magic, healers, midwives, a lot of people who maybe didn't have access to medicine in the traditional sense, but were trying to heal themselves or others, or just kind of take health and wellness into their own hands. For instance, I recently found out about a history of a certain group of people taking things into their own hands, which rings very, very unfortunately stinging kind of true to nowadays. If you do not know, we recently have Roe versus Wade taken away from us. And in the past, another group of people who did not have many rights to their own autonomy, slaves, African-American slave women. And the enslaved people found a way to take their own body into their own hands. They used to use a type of root the cotton root, the bark of it, chew it as contraceptive, and also for abortion purposes. Unfortunately, back then, you did not get to decide what happened to your body. And that was a great way for them to kind of take that back into their own hands. We also have uses where it was maybe something much more innocent, but history and the eyes of people who didn't understand kind of corrupted it to be something much more, evil. So for instance, we might have heard, Hansel and Gretel, that kind of thing, of witches eating children. They're so tasty and plump. But it actually can maybe be tied back to some Russian history of witches or the village healers who would have a practice of rebaking premature babies. So if you know, nowadays when we have babies who are preemies, we put them in incubators to stay warm, that sort of thing. And back then, there was a practice and ritual of taking premature babies or unwell babies, wrapping them in dough. The dough could sometimes have herbs and spices that had different purposes, kind of like what we're learning about today. And then they would put them in a cool down oven. What it did was keep them protected, insulated, hydrated, and warm. Pretty much the same thing that we do now. But of course, back then, some outsider was like, they're putting the babies in delicious dough and they're baking them and they're eating them. When really it was just kind of early preemie care. So there's a lot of history as to the different things that just, was a different way of healing. And sometimes we've adapted some of them and kept going from there. Some things got lost to history, and some things, unfortunately, people took the wrong way. So what I'm saying is, people have been doing it for ages. Why not you too? Now, there are a lot of herbs with a lot of different properties. So much so that, like I said, I will send you a nice list of some of the basic things, but even culture by culture, it's going to vary very widely what each herb kind of means to people as far as, the magical properties, this and that. So there's some familiar herbs that we have every day in our lives, such as basil. I know you guys have all had basil, something or another. In magic, it can be used to purify the home. It can be used a lot in love magic. Chamomile tea, everyone has that. It's used for stress, a lot of stomach issues. Chamomile can be great for gut health. And then magical properties, some people mix it with witch hazel for sunburns. That's not even that magical. That kind of does work. It's a soothing herb. And so it used to be used for washing your hands in the tea for good luck with gambling. Lavender. Lavender is great, we know, for stress and tension. And people put it in their, pillows, their teas. Lemon balm. Everybody's had a little bit of lemon balm tea. It's great for strained muscles. And I've heard that it's useful for attracting men if it's planted near homes, if that's your cup of tea. Rosemary. Rosemary is great for increasing circulation. One of the recipes I have later ties into that. I will show you. And relieves aches and pains, but some people use it for removing anxiety and cleansing the spirit. Then there's plenty of herbs that you probably have never really heard of, like black cohosh, which is used pretty widely for menopause symptoms. So it's supposed to help with the heat flashes, that sort of thing. That's actually, doctors are accepting it a little bit more. You can find kind of herbal supplements to take for that. Calendula, which is antifungal, antiseptic. Rue, which is another one of those secret herbs. Back then, some people used to use it for epilepsy when it was brewed with peacock feathers. I'm not sure where you got those, but good for you. And it was also used for delayed menses, which the thing that usually delays menses is a baby. So again, lots of times people finding ways to find alternative treatments for something that involves themselves and taking care of themselves. So this is my big disclaimer, caution. Do your research, please, with herbs. You should always know what's in your area. You should always make sure that you have the herbs properly identified, especially if you are foraging and picking your own or getting them from someone. Buying in the store, if you're buying basil, you're probably okay. But if you're foraging and picking things, double, triple, quadruple check. You can never be too safe. And if you're not sure, let it go. Also, make sure you're not allergic to something before you start putting it in salves and tinctures and you're just putting in all forms of shapes in your body, because you don't want to find that out when you're trying to heal something to make yourself worse in another way. Also, make sure to cater to your life. So some herbs might do wonders for some people, but it could have interactions with certain medications that you take. For instance, one that comes up a lot is people will take St. John's wort, which is great for mood and depression, but it makes birth control less effective. And sometimes people find that out the hard way. If you have pets, do keep in mind that a lot of herbs are toxic to pets. So either keep them out of reach, keep them out of the home, or just go with something else. Also, just make sure that if you are going to be making something, to use it for yourself. I know some people like to use herbal properties for their pets and healing as well, but maybe consult with a vet before you do that. All right, so I've warned you. So how can you get your herbs? Like I said, store-bought is fine. You can also try foraging. We have great landscape here in California, forests, beaches, deserts, all kinds of natural environments. So foraging is great to do here. We have great access to the outdoors, but as I said before, know your flora. So take a book with you. Once you pick it, identify it, consult with someone else, know what is local to your environment. So, if you're thinking, oh, this looks like this, but I know we don't grow that here in California, it probably isn't. So maybe you'd like to see what a lookalike might be. You'll want to pick a good area to forage. So while the mint that you see on your daily walk to work looks very accessible, is nice and bushy, maybe skip on it, because being anything by the roads can get polluted by traffic, oil, dogs doing their business, litter, insecticides, a lot of things that you just don't want to be consuming or putting on you. So better safe to find something more secluded, although please do not trespass. Just because you see a nice big clump over somebody's fence, maybe get permission, maybe don't just jump over and help yourself. Because third thing, sharing is caring. You want to make sure that you are not hogging up a natural resources. So it might be very tempting to see a giant bush of something and pull the whole thing out of the ground. Yay, treasure for me. But think of people who might be coming in the future and sharing, or the fact that you want to come back to that spot and know that it's still there. And if you take all of it, that's it. It's gone. Once you use it up, it's not coming back. So do be mindful that you only take what you need, that you leave enough for the environment to kind of repair itself after you take your portion, and just think of others and yourself in the future. And then also be mindful of the local native population. So for instance, here in California, I know that we have an abundance of white sage. And recently it's been very popular for people to go out, gather it so they can, make bundles to burn, to cleanse their homes. But it is very important to the local population of native people. And, it's something that we can find alternatives that's sacred to them. There's no need to clear out the mountains and things like that of the sage. So just some things to keep in mind if you're going to really take the DIY herbal gathering prep. So once you got your herbs, what do you do with them? So if you've gotten them from a very nice clean source, as far as cleaning, you're pretty good. You're going to just dust off any ants that made it home with you, any dirt, and you're pretty good to just start using them or start drying them. If you do need to wash them, do make sure, very important, that the herbs are fully dry before you start storing them. The last thing you want is your precious little find to get moldy, to kind of go bad, because it was kind of wet and stuck together. So just make sure they're nice and dry. You can do this by laying them out, fresh air, good circulation, drying them completely before you store them. As far as drying, you can do that a couple of ways. Like I said, you can lay them out. And as you also seen a lot of times, you can bundle them together and hang them. Now, while we always see this as far as like people hanging herbs and clumps of herbs in their kitchens, kitchens aren't actually the best place to store your herbs, for drying at least. You really want an environment that's cool and dry. And if you're constantly making big soups, big potions in there, it's going to be kind of a humid environment. Probably won't be so great. So maybe just another room, maybe a nice cabinet. Just make sure that you're kind of giving it the best chance to dry completely. You can also, if you are going to be hanging them for a while, you want to make sure that dust is not accumulating on your herbs. And you can do this by just kind of wrapping the bundle in a paper bag and then just securing it over it. That way it just kind of protects them from collecting dust, or in my case of my house cat fur. So storage, now you have your nice herbs, they're dried, they're bundled. Where do you keep them? So I'm a terrible example of this, because while glass containers are great, dark glass is probably better. And all of mine are in these beautiful clear containers. Oops, do as I say, not as I do. But my kitchen is very dark, so it's very tiny windows, so I kind of keep them out of the way, out of the sunlight. But yes, you want to make sure that your herbs are out of direct sunlight. Again, not somewhere too hot. You don't want the temperature fluctuating too much. That'll just give them the best chance of lasting as long as possible for you. And again, do as I say, not as I do. It's best to label them so that you know not only what they are, but when you pick them, and so you can know maybe when you should refresh them. Because herbs have a shelf life. A lot of herbs will be good for a few years, but you do want to keep an eye on them, check them. Don't just assume like, oh yeah, this is still good. Make sure you check periodically for mold, pest infestations. Just make sure that they're still good. And then before you decide that you're going to bake a big batch of something, open up your stash and it's gone bad. So like I said, just keep an eye on them, and 1 to 3 years is a good time to keep them, because herbs will lose their potency over time. All right. So all that out of the way, let's get to the fun magic stuff. What are you going to make with your herbs? So there's a couple of different ways. Actually, there's a lot of different ways that you can use herbs to make different potions, as you would call them, in order to get them into your system and incorporate them into your life. And one of the probably easiest ways is a tincture. So what is a tincture? It's a way to extract the properties of the herbs that are water soluble. It's really easy to customize what you're doing. They have a really long shelf life if you make them with alcohol, as they are made traditionally, and they're really concentrated and easy to absorb. Now, I don't often use the alcohol ones. I actually always use apple cider vinegar, which does not last as long, but it's really cheap. You know, if I mess up, if I didn't really like something, I don't feel that bad. When you make it, there's always going to be a difference between using fresh herbs and dried herbs. Typically, fresh herbs are going to be more potent, so you're going to use less of them in versus dried herbs. So for instance, for this one, it would be a 2 parts to 1 for fresh herbs, 5 parts to 1 for dried herbs. You can use alcohol, as I said, and that pretty much lasts forever. Like, it's just never going to go bad. Apple cider vinegar, vegetable glycerin, those last a little bit shorter. So I make them in smaller batches. That way I don't have to worry about them going off. For that, you really simply just mix your liquid with your herbs in a container, and you just shake them every day. And it does take 4 to 6 weeks for it to fully kind of saturate and become concentrated. A lot of these things, unfortunately, aren't, overnight. except for things like maybe teas and infusions. But again, these are going to last you forever. Then you can always strain them after it's done, put them in something like a little dropper bottle. And I would say about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon every day should be the ticket. The kind of things that you can make with it, again, can be varied really, really, really widely, just whatever you want to concentrate on. So for instance, if I was going for a job interview and I'm really interested in this promotion, this pay bump, I'm very nervous to my stomach, I might make a mint tincture. Mint is used for prosperity and money, and it's also good for soothing your stomach. So why not? Help me up, maybe get me that promotion. An infusion. Infusion really just means like herb water. And an infusion is probably another one of the easiest ways to do this. You can make big batches of that. They do last maybe about 1 to 3 days in the fridge, so don't make too big of a batch. And it's basically like making a giant tea, except that you can have it cooled. So for instance, for this one, you would use a couple of ounces of herbs of your choice, 4 cups of water. Most of them you will boil your water and pour it over your herbs in a heat-safe container. Please do not hurt yourself by pouring it into any glass container. Heat can shatter glass, and you don't want to get, again, a different kind of injury when you're trying to do something nice for yourself. I like to use a French press, which is usually made for coffee, but the secret with that is herbs go at the bottom, just like coffee would. The water goes on top, and when I'm done, I just strain it, and I don't have to worry about straining out the herbs. I just pour myself a nice little glass, and ha ha ha, I took a shortcut, modern witch for you. So you can also do it a little witchier if you want to add another level to it by using something like the full moon. So the full moon, the moon itself, has a lot of magical properties that go with feminine energy, wisdom, intuition, that sort of thing. So when you make your infusion, if you'd like to bump up the magical factor, you can make it and set it out on a full moon's day. Let it infuse the moon's energy into your infusion. Now, if you're going to be placing it outside, do put something to cover it. Maybe a cheesecloth, maybe a tea cloth, and kind of secure it so you don't want little creepy crawlies or leaves and stuff getting in there. I don't want it to be that naturey, so. Now, if you're not wanting to go that deep into, bubble, kind of potion making, you can do something as easy as making floral sugars or teas. So floral sugars are really nice. They're really beautiful. They're a good gift. Again, you can pick whatever kind of combination of flowers, herbs if you want to, you can put in there. And there's a couple ways if you can do it. You can either put the herbs and the sugar together, blend it, and it makes a beautiful, usually colorful, if you're using flower petals, sugar that you can sprinkle on things that you can mix into baked goods, you can mix into your teas, or you can do, let me see if you can see it. Yes. You can alternate layers of sugar and flour. Now for this kind, because you're really just letting the flavors seep into the sugar, you do let it sit for about 3 weeks. And then you would sift out the flowers before using, but look how pretty that looks for a gift for somebody, letting them know you're thinking about them, kind of customizing it to maybe what they're going through and how you want to help them out. And as you see, and as you can probably see, a lot of these glass jars are recycled. So this used to have jam in it of some sort. So another great way to help out the environment, recycle those jars, just keep them. You never know. And then you don't have to worry if you give it away, you don't have to get it back. So tea, like I said, tea is basically an infusion, but in a smaller batch. So, everyone knows how to make tea. And if you are making loose leaf tea, basically, you can use a strainer. You only need about 1 to 3 teaspoons of whatever kind of blend of herbs you'd like. Pour some hot water over it, you're all set. Very easy way, very quick way to kind of incorporate a little everyday magic into your life. Herbal honey. This one's really neat. I really like herbal honey. So honey is great. It's so cool. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal, it's anti-inflammatory. It's so cool. It can basically be considered a salve because some people put it on externally onto wounds, burns, but of course you can eat it. So again, for this recipe, you can use fresh versus herbs, dried herbs. But for fresh herbs, I would say do let them wilt first and then chop them up. And it is going to make a difference in the consistency of your honey. So for instance, dried honey, your honey is going to stay the same. Once you're ready to use it, you can just strain out the herbs. For fresh herbs in your honey, the moisture in the herbs will kind of leak out and make your honey a little bit more watery, which is totally normal. But you might want to keep it in the fridge so that it stays fresh for longer. And putting in the fridge might cause your honey to crystallize a little bit, and that's okay. So this honey here that I have, very dark, is some local honey, and I made sage infused honey. So sage is actually great for luck and sweating, actually. So I am a sweaty person, and I do not like the taste of sage in tea. So I make some sage honey, which I sometimes mix into my tea. Sometimes I put on my avocado toast. It's very delicious. And, you know, why not help myself out in every little way I can, add something sweet to my life. Solar infused oil. So, disclaimer, this oil is not for internal use. You make it with edible oils such as olive oils, things like that, avocado oil, but it is not for eating. So you use 1 part of dried herbs to 3 parts of whatever oil of your choosing. And you can also add things, because again, it's for external, such as vitamin E oil and essential oils if you want it to smell a certain way, besides the smell that the herbs itself will give. Again, essential oils are not great for pets. So if you're going to be wearing them and you have a very kissy pet, maybe don't use it on your arms anywhere where they might lick, because it can cause some issues for your furry friends. So this one is pretty easy. You're going to want to get a jar, fill it with your oils, and then your herbs, and then top it with your oil. You're going to want to mix it as much as you want. Some people use a chopstick to kind of poke it in through there, and you'll want to shake it. I know that a lot of times oil, no matter how closed you close your container, it will still leak out. So you can use something like wax paper. Over the top, and then seal it. And that way, anything that kind of leaks out gets kind of sucked into that. And even then, I would maybe store it on a plate. And when I mean store it, is during your creation process. So after you've shook it around, you can put it on a plate and place it in the sun, because this is solar infused oil. So we had our moon infused infusion, and we have our solar oil. It's the sun being male energy and representing empowerment, ambition, success. I don't know why they get all these traits, but sure. And if you want to, maybe boost your oil with that, put it in the sun, let it sit, keep shaking it every day for, again, 2 to 3 weeks. Takes a little bit of time. And then once it is ready, you can strain it and keep it at room temperature. It lasts about a year. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm doing my skincare, I don't necessarily go into my kitchen to put on my oils and lotions. So you can keep it in your bathroom if you'd like, or wherever you get ready in the morning. But I would recommend that, because again, humidity is not great for any of these things. You may make a smaller batch so that if it does go bad, go rancid. You're not ruining your whole batch. So if you made a big container of it, you might want to transfer into maybe like a little jar, another little jam jar that I saved. And then I could keep this in my bathroom, and if it goes bad, you're okay. You didn't waste all of your time. Now here's even more into self-care-ness. So, another part again of magic is just kind of taking time for yourself, taking in what you want to bring to your own energies. And what a lovely way to take care of yourself than a bath. And a milk bath is not only beautiful, but it's actually great for your skin. So the lactic acid in milk is actually great for loosening dead skin, and which makes it soft, and then also allows, the herbal properties to seep in. So this one's really easy to make and also can be gifted. So normally you would make this with actual whole milk, but secret tip is you can use powdered milk. So they come in these little pouches. They get activated by water. So that means that the powder mixture that you make stays powder until you put it in your bath, and then it becomes creamy and lovely. You also can make a version that has oatmeal. So the recipe that I have given you guys uses the milk, but it also is technically an oatmeal bath as well, which again is also great for your skin. My concoction here has the cornstarch, milk powder, oatmeal, and my choice of herbs, which I went with hibiscus and cinnamon, which traditionally both are used in love spells. Why did I use this in my bath? Well, it is for self-love is what I'm using it for, and not to mention it smells so nice. Now for this one, I did put my container as a plastic container because again, bathroom, glass, bath sometimes does not mix. I do not want to put that in my nice milky bath as shards of glass. So it can keep for quite a while. Like I said, it's really great to share. You can put it in a nice jar, bottle, and gift it to somebody, and just take the time to treat yourself. Dream pillows are another nice way. I don't have an example with me today. I'm so sorry, I forgot it, but they're very easy to make. You can definitely sew a little sachet pillow of your own. You can also just kind of cheat and use a little pouch. This is a nice way to customize it as well, because you can use your pouch fabric or your ribbon if you're going to be hanging it in whatever colors you want. And I would suggest maybe catering those colors towards the intentions that you want as well. So you can look up a lot of colors that are used in magic and spells, and maybe you want to lean towards prosperity. Maybe you want to lean towards love. Pick out a color and then incorporate that into your concoction. And basically you can either put that in your pillow, you can put it just in your bed with you, or hang it from your bedpost. And depending what you mix in there, for instance, I would make maybe, I think spearmint, I believe is for vivid dreams. Rosemary is to promote deep sleep and ward away bad dreams. And lemon balm, which I believe is supposed to help with stress, insomnia, anxiety. So if I wanted lovely dreams and a deep sleep, that's the kind of dream pillow I would make for myself. Now, that's pretty much it for today. I hope that kind of those things, you can see they don't take much ingredients. There's no real structure. If it's a little overwhelming, like, okay, you told me what I can make, but you just said herbs. What kind of herbs? Again, that's what's nice about it, is that it can be whatever you need it to be. Again, I will send you something to show you, some of the common uses and magical properties of those herbs, so you can kind of pick and choose. But there's no wrong answer, really. I think that's what makes it nice, fun, accessible. There's no wrong answer. It's whatever works for you, whatever you need for your life. So I will not judge. I will let you experiment in your spooky ways. And like I said, if all of these magical properties, or actually, honestly, the health properties, because herbs are great for your health, piques your interest, please, next Saturday, come to Lamanda Park branch, not my branch, but it's going to be a great program. It's going to get really hands-on, learning more about herbs. And we live in California. It's so easy to grow everything. Why not? just give it a try. Just work in little by little. I'm glad to see in the chat. I guess I'll give you a couple of minutes. If you have any questions for me, I'll try to answer any. But I'm just hoping that it kind of makes you excited. And you're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this morning. Yes, so we have lots of books. Someone asked if we have any books here at the library. We've actually got a great supply of not only books about herbs, but about magic and about herbal magic. I have one right here, I believe. Plant magic. This one was great. I might buy it myself just because I don't want to hog it up all the time. But we also have just a lot of great ones. If we don't have it at this branch, we can definitely request it to be held for you. I saw someone ask about the milk powder sources. So I got this one from Target, funny enough, but it's pretty easy to find. Sometimes you can find them in the infant sections of the markets, but yeah, it seems like you can usually get whole milk, non-fat milk, goat milk, and all kinds of powdered forms in your just local supermarkets. I believe so, yes. Carnation milk powder, I think, is also just one of the regular milk powders. You don't want anything that's, say, like infant formula, but you'll find that it'll say, and you don't want anything like maybe creamers, stuff like that, but it'll be in the same sort of sections. Yes, that's actually exactly what it's for. It's basically a shelf-stable milk. So it's meant that instead of buying a gallon of milk for who knows when you need it and it goes bad, you have the instant milk, mix it with water, you have fresh milk for the week or whatever you need to use. And I've heard that it's pretty good tasting. It's not too much of a difference. So yeah, look for it. It was really easy to find. Again, I just got it at Target. So yes, if you guys are comfortable, I will be sending and emailing the same emails that you registered with. I will be sending the slides and the information and some of the recipes and some of the herbal properties so that you can sit down and start concocting mixtures of your own. Well, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Happy spooky season, and hope to see you guys in programs in the future. Bye.